Hello, this is Virtualis the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. Discovered attacks are a powerful tactic in chess. An opponent might not be able to prevent material loss when a discovered attack results in two simultaneous threats. At the beginner-intermediate level, there may also be a surprise element as well. The opponent may simply not realize the discovered attack and hang a piece. In this game, I had two discovered attacks on my opponent, both of which involved a knight move. One I saw, and one I wished I saw during the match. I hope you enjoy! So let's start with a review of this game. In this game, I played black, the opponent white, and no, I did fairly well in this game. Accuracy 83%, except for this one blunder, which completely takes me in the other direction, though I wasn't punished for that error. We'll see that move in context, actually. Other than the blunder, in fact, I played quite well. So no other inaccuracies or mistakes, and I was able to win the match. Let's go on now to the analysis. So opponent starts with d4. I play d5 and c4, so the Queen's Gambit. Against the Queen's Gambit, I usually play the Slav Defense, so c6. And with the Slav Defense opening, after this, we both, I think, just play very principled moves. It ends up being this book opening, the Shallop Defense. I didn't know it's called the Shallop. However, it's sort of a very balanced, quiet opening. So knight f3, knight f6, e3, bishop f5, knight c3, e6, bishop d3. Now, of course, bishop d3 is an attack on my bishop. So withdraw bishop to g6, short castles, and that's the end of the opening. At the end of the opening, we're basically completely equal. So practically 0, 0, 0. I develop my other knight to d7, rook e1, and here I decided to go on the initiative, to go for an attack. So I can certainly see, develop bishop to b4 might have been better with a pin of that knight. However, I thought that I was okay potentially to have some trades in this position. The opponent now makes an error. So knight d2, so ostensibly bringing in an extra attacker onto my knight. So that seemed to make sense, but as per sort of the title of this video, they have led themselves to a discovered attack. And I actually did see this discovered attack when I made the move. So knight captures knight comes with also an attack on the queen. Basically, the opponent must address the queen. Now, logically, they could potentially move the queen to here or here, which would then continue to defend the bishop. However, the more, I suppose, intuitive move would be after knight captures knight to capture back with pawn. And of course, that leaves that bishop undefended and meaning it'll be a straight out loss of the piece. Captures, captures, captures. I'm very happy. So I'm straight up a piece on move 10. Pawn captures back, nice diagonal. I'm very happy with my control for center. Opponent plays knight f3 again, which is fine. Need to move the bishop out of the way and attacking the queen. I thought this was potentially a good move, keeping some tension and also preventing the opponent from bringing forward their pawn to e4, which sort of opens up that file. Queen to a4, pinning the knight to the king. So that was a good move. So I responded with queen c7, potentially allowing for long castles, and also now an attack on the c3 pawn, which is undefended. Opponent now brings forward their knight e5, which is a good move. So there's two attackers, which basically means at this point, if knight captures knight, I cannot potentially capture back. So I decide to long castle, to bring an extra defender to that knight. Now they capture that pawn, seeing a potential forking of the rooks. However, this is where I wish I saw this tactic. I identified it in analysis, but not during the actual match. Here I have another discovered attack with a knight move. The absolute gangster move, knight to b6 with a threat to the queen on a4, which also simultaneously opens up the rank for the queen to take knight. And basically with that move, it potentially, yeah, it's a straight up loss of that knight. I, however, didn't see that move in the actual match and instead captured the pawn on c3 and, you know, with a potential straight out mate in one threat. I was hoping maybe they didn't see that. Of course, that's not very likely, is it? That was a pretty obvious move. So the opponent played sort of a pretty obvious move, I suppose. Bishop d2, threatening back, threatening the sort of bishop back. Now I could potentially just capture that bishop, but that would potentially cause, I thought, would cause some trouble for me. So I thought about this move to a3, which is protected by that bishop. However, I didn't quite like the idea of my bishop being stuck in that position. And particularly with the with the potential that that bishop could go to that square right afterwards. So what I opted to do at this point was to throw an extra threat. Otherwise, it looks like the opponent might almost win my rook for free. When I made this move, I did see that I would probably end up playing this move, knight to b6. I wish I made that move, just the one turn before, and basically inviting a trade in queens. And I thought that was basically a done thing, that was a forced move. Now, actually, this was an error, and I didn't see this, and luckily the opponent didn't see this as well, because the opponent doesn't have to play ball with this. They don't have to trade queens. They could just straight out capture my that pawn on a7. I am in serious trouble if that's what they do. And in fact, this is why Stockfish reckons that knight b6 is a blunder, almost plus 6.5 to the opponent, because of that move afterwards. Queen captures pawn on a2. Luckily, the opponent didn't see that. They thought it was a queen trade. This is, when you're looking at a queen trade, it does look very tempting. So captures queen, and I was quite happy with this transformation because my knight now threatens the bishop as well. I expected that to occur. Knight captures rook. I'm not too worried about that because the knight must return to this square to do anything really. Knights in the corner are quite weak, so they're going to be wasting 1 or 2 turns potentially there. That rook wasn't participating in the game at all, hadn't moved, wasn't providing any threats, wasn't sort of providing any particular defenses. And so with sort of the knight potentially sort of out of the picture for a little bit, compared to one of my pieces, which was doing something, this was otherwise a fairly active piece, I thought that this was okay for me, that as long as I kept the initiative, I might still be ahead. Even though the opponent is slightly up on material. Now, I immediately captured back that bishop, so that looks okay for me. Opponent brings their rook out to the c file, obviously with an attack on the knight. However, I can protect that simply with bishop b4. And I expected here that the opponent, that they would move their knight, trying to bring their knight back into the game. However, I could simply here now bring my rook to f8, attacking the knight, also providing pressure on that pawn on f2. And here, there doesn't seem like there's a lot of options for the opponent. And I wondered whether or not they get blinded with just to do a check. Because if they check, I would be happy to trade pieces at this point. Their best move is probably, in fact, going to g5, which of course comes with a fork of my pawn and bishop. However, they opted not to do that. They went straight for check. happy to capture, happy, and they capture back. So this is basically just a trade of knights. I'm okay here because I've got one rook and the bishop pair. They've only got two rooks. I still feel that I was ahead here. And after that transformation, Stockfish agrees that I have improved my lead. Now, the opponent has also placed both their rooks on the same diagonal. And so if they're not careful, this bishop will be very, very powerful. Happily, obviously here I do have to move my king out of the file, and here they make a mistake. They try to launch an attack on that bishop, and of course now bishop b4 again with a skewer of the two rooks. One of the rooks is lost. So they capture the bishop, I capture the rook. Bring rook over. That wasn't a good move because now I can threaten that rook again, being on a dark square, and now it's a fork of the rook and the pawn. So that again, they made a move that I wasn't exactly expecting. Moving here doesn't really achieve very much. My king here is protecting those pawns. Bishop captures pawn now with check. And with the open F file, the king is now forced to H1. Now, what this also means is this rook cannot, at the moment, ever leave this rank because otherwise they would hang back rank mate. So now they have to waste some moves moving some of the pawns in front of the king. So captures. The idea with bringing the pawn, trying to push the pawn to promotion, trying to push the pawn to promotion and having the promotion square the same color as the bishop. That was expected. Capture that other center pawn. That's fine. Move pawn up, protect the bishop, and really it's now just moving the pawn all the way now to the 7th rank, looking very bad for the opponent. Yep, pretty much false. How about rook to f2 protects? That was probably the wrong move. Here they could provide some threats against the rook potentially, but now end of the game. Basically, that rook must be lost now, pretty much in the next turn. There's no real other options, or they have to accept a pawn promotion. Neither of those are good consequences, and so the opponent chose to resign. Good game to the opponent. GG. Knights are especially tricky of all the pieces given their L-shaped moves. Not only is it more difficult to see the threats from a knight move, no other piece that is the target of a knight attack threatens it at the same time. This gives the knight the ability to attack a queen without any supporting pieces, without being reciprocally attacked by the queen. This makes the combo of discovered attacks using a knight move against a queen especially forcing. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.